The dangerous myth of forced reunification, you guys. What happens, when a court orders a child into therapy to reunite with a parent they're afraid of? For many families, that moment feels simply terrifying. Online, you hear things like phrases like forced reunification or reunification camps. Some describe it as children being pushed into relationships they simply don't want. And when you hear these stories, it raises a very real question. Is this healing or harm? Well, you guys, the truth is the answer actually depends entirely on how the process is done, because there is a massive difference between forcing compliance and supporting true psychological repair. So welcome to the Reunification channel. Today we're going to talk about the psychology of neuroscience, okay? And the difference, okay? We're going to talk about the science behind this. Why children reject parents in the first place. And when a child strongly rejects a parent, people often jump to many conclusions. Some assume the child must be manipulated by the other parent. Others assume the parent must be abusive. But human psychology is rarely that simple. Children, from their beliefs and emotional reactions through their nervous system and their experiences and the emotional environment around them. Yes, sometimes rejection grows out of real trauma. Sometimes it does. Other times it grows from loyal conflicts, fear, confusion, or emotional alignment with other parents during a very highly stressful divorce. And sometimes it's a complex mixture of all of those things, you guys. The key points here is this, you guys. A child reaction is not just a decision. It's often a protective response created by the brain. Yes, protective response, you guys. Let's talk about the neuroscience of fear and loyalty. When children experience intense family conflict, their nervous system goes into survival mode. The brain structures involves threat detection, especially the amygdala, becomes highly active at this time. When that happens, the brain starts scanning for safety and for danger. Yes, children are especially sensitive to emotional signals from the parents they live with most of the time. Yes, those emotional signals. If that parent communicates fear, anger, or distress about the other parent, directly or indirectly, the child's brain can begin associating that parent with danger or threat, even if the child never personally experienced harm from them. Okay, so over time, the brain builds neural pathways around that belief. Yes, and once those pathways form, the fear can feel completely real to the child. Yes, to the child. Not imagine, you guys, not fake, okay? Real. That's what it might feel to the child, okay? So take that in. Why forcing doesn't work, you guys, okay? This is where the concept of forced reunification becomes really dangerous in these situations. If a child who feels threatened is pushed into contact without psychological support, the brain interprets that as a loss of safety. And when safety disappears, the nervous system does what it's designed to do. Yes, it protects. Yes, children may shut down. Yes, they may disassociate. They may become more resistant and fearful. From a neuroscience perspective, that reaction makes perfect sense. Yes, you cannot reason with a brain that believes it's under threat. You can't reason with the brain that believes it's under threat. The brain has to feel safe first, you guys, okay? So keep that in mind when you're trying to reunify with your child. The brain needs to feel safe. What trauma-informed reunification actually looks like is real trauma-informed reunification takes a completely different approach, you guys. Instead of forcing a child to comply, the focus is on regulating the nervous system and rebuilding a sense of safety with that child. That process often includes helping the child, understand their own emotions, helping parents regulate their reactions and expectations, and creating small, manageable steps that allow trust to rebuild gradually, you guys. Okay, in neuroscience terms, that helps shift the brain from survival mode back into connection mode. When the nervous system feels safe, the brain becomes capable of curiosity, empathy, and new experiences, you guys. That's when relationships can begin to repair. Yes, that's what we're here for, okay? The role of self-empathy. One of the most powerful tools in this process is something many people overlook. Self-empathy, yes, they overlook that. Children caught in high conflict families or divorces situations often carry enormous emotional pressure in these situations. They may feel responsible for protecting one parent. They may feel guilty about loving the other. They may feel confused about what they're allowed to feel. Yes, self-empathy helps children recognize that their emotions are valid signals from their nervous system, not something they need to suppress or fight. When children learn to understand their own emotions, reactions, sometimes are remarkable things happen. Their brain shifts out of defensive mode and into self-awareness. Yes, and from there, new perspectives can slowly begin to form. Yes, why the approach matters. Let me tell you why it matters, okay? This is why the conversation around reunification therapy can be really confusing, you guys. Okay, when done poorly, it can absolutely cause harm. Keep that in mind. But when done carefully, ethically, with a trauma-informed approach, it can help families repair relationships that once seemed impossible. The real issue isn't whether reunification should exist. The real issue is how it's practiced, okay? Because the difference between control and healing lies entirely in the approach, okay? Entirely in the approach, okay? So let's close this out, you guys. Thank you for joining me on the Reunification channel. Children deserve safety, you guys. They deserve to have their voices heard, and they deserve support that respects both their emotional reality and their long-term well-being. Yes, when we understand the neuroscience, the psychology, and the importance of empathy, self-empathy, we stop asking, how do we force this child to comply? We don't ask that question. We start asking a much better question. How do we help this child feel safe enough to reconnect? Okay, how do we do that? And that question changes everything, you guys. It changes everything, okay? So thank you for joining me on the Reunification channel. The conversations around reunification therapy is incredibly polarized. Some people believe it protects families. Others believe it harms children. Where do you stand, okay? Where do you stand in this conversation? Let me know in the comments, you guys. I'm interested in learning different perspectives, okay? So if you want deeper conversations about psychology, neuroscience, and family dynamics, make sure you subscribe, okay? All right, thank you for joining me on the Reunification channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.